Hello and welcome back to the Fantasy Playmakers. Right after the Deshaun Watson trade, reports came out that Juju Smith-Schuster is actually going to be signing with the Chiefs. So we knew last offseason before Juju signed his, 1 year kind of prove it deal with the Steelers, the Chiefs were interested in bringing Juju on. It looks like they once again had interest and he will now be joining them. He'll be the wide receiver 2 behind Tyreek Hill. It's kind of an interesting spot because I feel like the last few years people have really been trying to hype up the wide receiver 2 role for the Chiefs. It's a high powered offense, an elite quarterback, a ton of passing volume. The problem is that wide receiver 2 position really just has not had a big payoff for fantasy football. And it kind of makes sense because you say wide receiver 2, you would think that's the number 2 target, but that is clearly not the case because you have Tyreek Hill, who's an absolute stud wide receiver 1, and then you have Travis Kelce, who is going to command a huge target share. But I do think, there's a solid argument to be made that Juju is by far the most talented player who's going to slot into that wide receiver 2 role. And he's kind of a different type of wide receiver than we normally see in that Chiefs offense. I feel like we look at that roster, it's just a bunch of burners. Juju Smith kind of has a different role. He can play in the slot, very physical, can be more of a possession, volume wide receiver. And he's kind of just a tough player to evaluate because obviously he had a fantastic start to his season. As a rookie, in 14 games, caught 58 passes for 917 yards and 7 touchdowns. I mean, that is big time playmaking ability. 917 receiving yards on 58 receptions. Then he was dominant in his sophomore season, full 16 games, 111 receptions, 1,426 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Then a big fall off in 2019. Was all right in 2020, but was very inefficient with his targets. And then in his prove it deal, appeared in 5 games for the Steelers in the regular season, only caught 15 passes for 129 yards and 0 touchdowns. So that prove it deal, that 1 year contract really did not help him out. So I'm kind of cautiously optimistic for Juju, heading into the 2022 season. I don't think he's going to have a big ceiling with Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce there, but I do think, probably best case scenario without injuries to Kelce or Hill, he's probably looking at like a low end wide receiver 2. I feel like that's probably, his peak. And then in drafts, he should probably be going as like a back end wide receiver 3, mid tier wide receiver 3. I've got to kind of run through my rankings and just see where I would slot him in. But those are kind of my initial thoughts there. I think this is really solid for Patrick Mahomes. They have struggled to find a consistent option as the wide receiver 2. Juju should be that. I don't think this is going to have any effect on Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce. Those guys are still going to be monsters. But those are just my quick thoughts. Let me know what you guys think about the Juju signing down below in the comment section. Thank you for stopping by, and I'll see you in the next one.